Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. I hope you are all doing well. I am back with another turning video. It has been a while since I've done any turning, and honestly a couple of days ago I just couldn't sit. I needed to get out into the workshop and turn something, and it had to be a snowman. Honestly, this is my very first snowman. I am utterly obsessed with the results and I hope you love it as much as I enjoyed making it. Let's go. So before we get too much into the video, please know that I am very much still a wood turning learner. Please do not watch this video and see it as a how-to guide. It's more of a how not to guide most of the time. I got this gorgeous sycamore log off the amazing Gav. Now, I've never turned a log. I've only ever turned the shop bought pre-made bowl blanks, and yeah, this is my first time turning an actual tree. It feels like an actual tree on my lathe, but here I am just trying to get off that outer bark. I mean, yeah, it had knots, it had all sorts going on, so my tools kept kind of jamming it, and I was also a bit nervous about putting it up to top speed because yeah, getting the bark off is sometimes the most painful part for me. It really hurts my hands, so I tried to turn this down a bit in the hope that it would work. So all I am doing is going back and forth over the outside edge to try and get it down to a smooth, straight edge. So while I've got you here, if I could just remind you to give me a big fat thumbs up, because that will really help my channel and it will help YouTube know how to push my video out so more people get to see it. I know that not all of you that I hear are probably here for wood turning. You probably follow me for resin and jesmonite, but I do the occasional wood turning video, so I hope if you are watching and you don't normally watch wood turning videos that you actually really enjoy this one. So when I started this, I really was hoping to get the hat, the head and the body all out of this one log, but I did want a big chunky snowman. I didn't want a thin skinny one, and because of that I wanted it really fat and round. I really wanted that, and I knew at this point that I wouldn't be able to get all three components out of this one log and that I would need to make a separate hat. Now I'm just eyeballing it at this stage. I drew a line thinking that's where the shoulders are going to be, so the top part is going to be the head and the larger part will be the body, and really I genuinely just eyeballed it. I know people probably have measurements in their mind, but for me I'm more visual and I just went exactly where I thought it would look right and the body proportions would be right. So I am just using 3 tools in this video. I only have 3 large carbides, and they are the finisher, the rougher and the detailer. So I'm just using the detailer here to try and get into that neck area, and then I'm using my finisher, but I'm still not very good at getting all of the scratches out, and really sanding is where I have to spend most of the time, because sometimes I'll get a little nick or I'll get a line, and then I try and go back in to get that out and I just make it worse and I end up with less wood than I started with. So here I am thinking I want to make the head flat because I already know at this point I have to make a separate hat. So I figured I would get that head flat so that when I do make the hat I can just glue it straight back on. And I had problems with mounting this piece of wood because I really don't know enough about wood, and I felt like this was either too dry. I don't think it was wet wood, I think it was very dry. So I had my chuck at the end, I kind of screwed it into the base of the log to hold it on the lathe, and what ended up happening, all of those screws, all 4 screws became loose in the wood. And so I don't know what caused that. If you guys are watching and you turn, then please let me know what caused that. So I ended up with this little nub. Someone called it a nub. I ended up with this nub on the top of the head, and I figured I could then use that to clamp into my jaws, turn it around and clamp it into my jaws. But ideally I would have used the worm screw attachment. I've got the worm screw attachment, but I don't, yeah, this happened. This is when all of the screws came loose and it just flew off. So I turned it round thinking I could clamp that knob in my chuck, And again, any second now, you'll see it just fly off. I really had a nightmare finding the right tools to hold it. Do you know what I mean? And I really think if I had the correct drill bit, I would have been able to use the screw thing. But guys, you know, you can tell I've got the lingo right. I've got the right lingo here. Yeah, the worm screw would have just been ideal for this. To be honest, I would have been able to do it from start to finish with the worm screw and bringing the tailstock up to keep it in place. But because I didn't have the right size drill bit, I drilled a hole that wasn't then big enough, which made that nub at the top of the head weak because it had a giant hole in the middle. So yeah, it took a lot of thinking, a lot of guesswork on what I can do now, and I ended up having to carve a tenon in the base, which then clamped into my chuck. And this is the best way around it. I couldn't think of any other way around it. So here I am again. If you are an experienced wood turner, you will be able to give me all the advice. I think I just need a bigger drill bit as well so that I can use that worm screw. I think that's what you call it, a worm screw. Car. If you're still here, well done. I'm literally the newest of beginners. But here I am. I sanded from 80 grit up to 240. I didn't spend too long, probably about half an hour, because I actually really love the roughness of it. I love rusticy, rough wood. Do you know what I mean? I didn't want it super smooth, but because I'm not yet at the top with my cutting skills, I tend to have to sand for longer. So I have this African walnut. I am telling you now, if you have not turned African walnut, it was a wow moment for me. I felt like this was like turning butter. Alright, you can see a lot of tear out here, but truly my tools were just getting rid of that wood like an absolute dream. So I have these blanks from English Woods, and I love their blanks because A, they come clearly labelled and they already mark the centre point for me, so I don't have to do it. But yeah, I mounted it using the screws. The screws stayed in real happy, so it wasn't like the log. You know, they didn't just fly out like they did on the log. They stayed in this blank really well. So I figured that the part where I've actually attached it to the lathe would be the base of the hat. So I'm kind of working backwards here. I'm cutting it wrong, but I'm also working backwards, and I end up holding my snowman body up to the piece of wood just to eyeball it again. No measurements, I didn't get a ruler out. I just know when I see it, I know that's the right size. So what I'm doing here is I'm just creating the tenon, the mortise, this area here. My knowledge, I bet it's blowing your minds. I'm just creating this area because I already know that I want this to be the part that touches the snowman. So now I'm going to be able to flip this around and then attach it to the chuck, and then I'm going to be able to work. Yeah, so here you see me. This is what I'm doing. There you go. Self-explanatory. I'm making myself laugh because I don't have the lingo. But yeah, I will get there in the end. So here you see me holding the snowman up, kind of working out how big do I want the rim of the hat and how narrow do I want the actual body of the hat. And I figured that I want the body of the hat to be just slightly smaller than the width of the head of the snowman. So that is all you see me doing here. I'm just bringing in the top. It is pretty much like a top hat, like a short top hat. And then you see me going and bringing the rim in as well. So I just keep on, because I'm so visual. Everything is so visual for me. I just eyeball it. And at this point I thought how fun it would be to have a hat that isn't just straight like a top hat. So I actually ended up coming in with this tool here to create this dent. Yeah, you can see where I'm going with it, but I don't have the language to explain it. I don't know the names of these hats, you see. This is what I was thinking. It would be really cool to have this, but then within minutes my mind changed. Within minutes I was I was cutting away thinking, yeah, that's kind of cute, the way it comes in and then out again at the top. Immediately, absolutely not. No, I want it square. So I end up coming back in with my other tool and getting rid. Everything you're watching now, I ended up coming in and just getting rid of it. Yeah, it was a good idea for about 2 seconds. I just did not like it at all. It was not my cup of tea. But how cute. I mean, it fits even the other way around. It looks like a university graduation cap. But yeah, I end up thinking, absolutely not. It needs to be straight. Absolutely straight, like a proper top hat. Like from the film The Snowman. You know, that straightness. Yeah, love it. But what I did do was curve the rim. So the rim of the hat comes down curved. A bit more smoother than straight edged. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, hope you do. So here I am just going in with an 80 grit. Again, I started at 80, worked all the way up to 240, and then I used Yorkshire grit and Yorkshire grit microfine. I used my methylated spirits in between each sand-in grit, and then I used sand-in sealer. And yeah, sorry about the wobble, but here you see me using the Yorkshire grit. I do use Yorkshire grit microfine as well, even though I don't always like that super sleek shiny finish. On some things I do, but I think I wanted my snowman to be a little bit more rough, a little bit more rustic. That, my friends, is the excuse I use for not wanting to sand. If you hear me say that I like it rough, it's because I don't want to sand. That is all it is. Yeah, I have to admit it, openly admit it, because you can probably all see straight through me anyway. So now the hat is done. At least it's done to my level of done. I actually made some marks in it, and yeah, I figured I'd leave them because I'm done at this point. This is 3 hours. This took me 3 hours. The snowman itself flew off the lathe 5 times. 5 times. But, you know, I didn't keep that footage in because who really wants to sit through that? So here I am pouring some wood glue on the top of the body. Now the hat, of course, has been hollowed out slightly because I carved it to attach to the chuck. So my brain is now saying there's no point in putting glue across the whole top of the snowman because it's not going to touch the hat. And I was so lucky that I made that tenon, that mortise, I think it's a tenon, isn't it? Is it a tenon? Help me out, guys. I made it just small enough to fit over the snowman, because if I made it any bigger, the hat would have literally sat straight on top of the head like it would our heads. That wouldn't have been a bad thing, it still would have worked, but I am obsessed at this point, utterly obsessed. I'm loving the African walnut. I'm loving the difference between the two woods, and here is my professional method of keeping that hat in place until it dries. I'm loving it. I'm absolutely loving it. Here is the finished product. I decided not to add any features. I was going to try and carve a carrot. I was thinking about pyrographing the eyes, the mouth, but guys, if I mess it up at this point, I don't want to mess it up at this point. So right now I'm going to leave it as is. Let me know your thoughts if you're still here. Thank you so much for staying to the end. We are 13 minutes in. I massively appreciate you all. I hope you've enjoyed it, even if you are not a turner yourself. Yeah, my first snowman. I am chuffed to bits. So thank you all so much. Don't forget to leave me a comment down below. I am still replying to all comments, and yeah, I hope you've loved it, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye.
All year long I've been keeping track of when I've been naughty and nice. And from what I can tell, I've done more good deeds than I've told lies. I can only hope that Santa Claus and my records agree.